Welcome to the Crypto and Blockchain Talk.
Hello.
Hey.
Guten Tag.
Aloha.
Hola. Shalom.
Hello.
Namaste.
Ni hao.
Privet.
Hello.
Salut. Yassas.
Salve.
Ciao.
Bonjour. Our podcast talks about the latest trends in the worlds of cryptocurrencies and the blockchain.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's special edition of Crypto and Blockchain Talk. And this week with me, I am really excited. Why am I excited? Because I have an internationally renowned photographer who is here on Crypto and Blockchain Talk to talk to us about his photographs appearing as NFTs. Before we go any further, let me introduce you to Jesse Dittmar. Jesse, welcome to Crypto and Blockchain Talk.
Thanks for having me, Aviva. I'm very excited to talk to you.
Oh, believe me, the excitement's all from this point forward. You are a very well-known portrait photographer. You have worked with the likes of the New York Times, the Washington Post, the New Yorker, People, Vanity Fair, Rolling Stone. We could go on probably for the next 10 minutes naming all the publications you've taken photographs for. But, you know, you've photographed some of the most accomplished people in the world in their areas of expertise, such as Denzel Washington, Tom Brady, who is appearing also on the banner to promote this podcast, Serena Williams, the famous tennis player, Tom Hanks, David Letterman, even the cast of Star Wars, you name it, you've done it. I think the first thing, people always want to know about who I'm interviewing. So let's just talk to you first of all about how you got into photography. Why did you become a photographer?
I became a photographer, Aviva, because I fell in love with the magic of it and possibilities of it when I was young. I was 16, sitting in a Barnes & Noble on those gross carpet floors and just pulling all the photography books off the shelves and just flipping through them and just literally lusting after the concept of why does this exist? Why do these beautiful images exist of these people that I know are famous? How does this happen? Why does this happen? I just was totally clueless and so curious. And that was when I was a teenager, and then I went to school for photography. I kind of excelled at photography in high school, and I was nurtured by my photography teacher. And luckily for me, I've been on a pretty straight path to where I am now since I was a teenager. Every step of the way has been more confirmation that this is something I really want to continue doing, that I love doing. I love meeting people. I love making things. I love creating. I love getting to know people and know what they're all about. And portrait photography is just an amazing mash of those two concepts.
So you've gone from this 16-year-old sitting on the sticky floors of Barnes & Noble, which, by the way, folks, doesn't exist anymore. Barnes & Noble has since filed Chapter 11 and is now just down in the history books as it has been. So you went from sitting on the floor of Barnes & Noble to taking the photographs of some of the most famous people in the world. Do you sometimes just think to yourself, how the hell did this happen? I mean, oh, hello, Denzel, come in and sit down. And by the way, can you look this way? And can you, what do you not think of this as a bit surreal at times?
It is surreal. It's hard to sit in that feeling as a photographer and as an editorial photographer an advertising photographer like myself, because you're so busy and on to the next project before your work really comes out that you don't have a lot of reflection time. There's not a lot of time where you're sitting there reflecting upon your work. Now, COVID's been great for that because everything's slowed down a bit. I've been able to focus and look back and plan. And the other time that I was able to do that was when I published my first book, which I had to collect a couple years worth of work and sit back and look at it. And I remember a very specific moment where I was on a New York City bus and I had just received the proofs from the factory in Italy. And I opened them on the bus, and I was just having this moment alone, but in public, looking back at the start of my career. And that was a pretty special moment to have it all there in one place. I mean, I'm extremely privileged and lucky, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. It's such an exciting career path.
Well, you're not joking. I think many people would want to swap places with you. I have so many friends who are wannabe professional. I say wannabe because they're working, I know for a fact, in other careers because they just couldn't cut it as a photographer. But I'm not joking when I say I have a lot of wannabe photographer friends who would literally just do anything to swap places with you. But obviously, it's the proof is in the pudding. You have the talent. Your photography is in typically black and white. They're very striking images of these people, which almost gives a face to them that's not normally seen in the public. Like when I look at your photographs, it's almost like we're having a private look, a private view of somebody that even though they're a public face, we don't get to see that face often. I almost feel like we're intruding on a private moment when we look at your photographs.
I feel like I'm intruding on a private moment when I take my photographs. It's an unbelievably intimate experience to have with someone that you've just met. And it takes a lot of courage to sit in that moment and not be, there's so many moments when I've just been awkward because you're being so intimate with someone that you've never met before. And in some cases, you feel like you do know them because they are a part of your life, but they've never met you. It's very challenging. It's very challenging to meet someone who you've had a relationship with, a one-sided relationship with for years and years and years, seeing them on TV or on a movie screen or being a fan of their writing or a politician that is representing you. And then all of a sudden you meet them and it's the first time they've ever seen you or know about you. So it's a pretty complicated tango as a interaction between two humans, but it's thrilling. It's so exciting.
You have these moving images, which we're going to talk about in a minute, because I don't want to say the whole reason you're on this podcast, because obviously it's just great to talk to you for being the professional that you are. But the emphasis of this podcast is the fact that you are actually presenting your works as a gallery for the first time in your life on OpenSeas, which you're presenting a collection of NFTs and your beautiful artworks, which are phenomenal. Especially, I'm actually on the page on OpenSea right now, and I'm just looking at the imagery that you have there, which is just so striking. They're just so amazing to look at because, like I said already, they just draw you in. This one of Jim Parsons, especially. I'm a huge Jim Parsons fan. It's phenomenal.
Sounds like you're in the market.
Well, honey, I've been in the market since Satoshi first wrote the white paper, which actually, let's talk about that before we actually talk about your gallery on OpenSea. Now, let me ask you this. Why did you come into the NFT space? How active are you in the whole crypto and blockchain world? Were you really active in crypto? Was Bitcoin something that you were actively investing in and trading on? Are you in that kind of space?
I am in that space. However, I'm not nearly as far in that space as someone like you who's been there for so long. The way I would describe it is that I'm the most active of my immediate circle of friends, but I'm not nearly as active as some of the people I follow on Twitter, that's for sure. So I'm somewhere of a person that is in, but not in to an extreme level. It's not my day job. It's something that I am very interested in. The whole space really excites me, but I'm a photographer and that's what I'm into.
Well, of course. And so when you probably saw, there was some time ago, well, I say some time ago, it's not that long ago, but the crypto space moves really fast. Towards the beginning of the year, that a NFT, which was basically a Donald Trump themed piece of digital art, it went for $6.6 million. This is really when I think art started to get into the news and into the NFT space in the news and really making blockchain something that people looked at, especially if they were in the arts sector, because the Nifty Gateway put up this piece of art, which I have to tell you is very interesting to look at. You put the politics aside. I really don't care about the politics. And this sold for $6.6 million. And the minute that sold, in my opinion, even though obviously you have this whole thing with CryptoKitties, which started years ago, I think it was 2017. CryptoKitties, obviously it really hit mainstream. And then of course you had all kinds of other pieces which also entered the space. But this is when I really think people start to sit up and take notice. And of course you have this other piece which was by Beeple again, which went for 69 million US dollars. And that piece of art was put up by Christie's auction house. The entire NFT space now is worth billions upon billions of dollars. So basically on OpenSea alone, which is obviously where your artworks are presenting, they've now seen their monthly sales average grow to 86.3 million US dollars in February.
Great.
This is the art space really in its purest form, what your gallery actually is representing of your artwork. Of course, we all know about the other NFTs that are out there, and they are just exploding as well. When something like this happens, this is also when, guess what, dun, da, 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 the SEC comes and takes notice of what's happening in the space because there's some serious money being thrown about. And now there's even talk about, are these securities? And even though I've just read some papers, and we have an expert coming on, a legal expert coming on the next couple of weeks to talk about this, but it looks like the first mentions of how this fits into the security space is the fact that buying these apparently is not a security at this point. But apparently, if you put them onto the secondary sales market, the secondary market, and or fractionalize them, then you're in the security space. And then you are dealing with securities and the SEC. But we're not going to go into that space right now because that's obviously a very heavy topic for this. But it just goes to show you that a year ago, you would have said NFT what? And now you are part of this big machine. And
that's exactly right.
There is a lot of, and I'm doing air quotes, folks, there's a lot of art. And I know what you're going to say to me, Jesse. You're going to tell me now about how art perceived in many different ways and beauty is in the eye of the beholder and all this other stuff. But by God, I've seen some junk out there. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure some people are taking the piss because I've seen some things that I swear to God. I mean, yeah, I agree. If Banksy did a stick figure, that thing would obviously get $100 million in 2 seconds. If my kid does a stick figure, yes, it's still art, but does it really warrant, the kinds of money that some of these art pieces are driving? I don't know. Because it just seems like now, because of these prices that some of these artworks have gone for, I just don't know if maybe this space is not being occupied by enough, I would say, true or classical artists such as yourself, or do you think that, again, I'm totally wrong and art is for everybody and everything should be on there from soup to nuts? Do you think that the vetting process on a lot of these platforms for artists, do you think that there should be a better vetting process, or does it come back to every single thing should be out there?
I'm okay with every single thing being out there because what I like about this space is the democratization of the ability to show your art. I don't personally feel like it's my place to tell people what their art is worth. It's worth that someone will pay for it. And just because someone paid $6.6 million for a Beeple doesn't mean that someone's going to pay them $6.6 million for it necessarily. What things are going for and the explosion of pieces of art that are going for super high values, that's kind of just noise to me personally. What really excites me about the space is the underlying concept and technology and the ability for someone like me and someone who's not as established to say, here's a gallery of my work. You don't need to go to Chelsea in New York City to go buy it. You can get it right here. And you're getting it from me. It's mine. It's going to you. There's no middleman. There's no authentication necessary. It's authentic art from me to you. You own it now. That's what I'm so excited about. I love it.
I do have a good laugh when I'm scrolling through these art pieces. Some of them definitely need to be there for entertainment value just by the fact that they exist. I mean, there's no other way of putting it. Yeah, it's silly.
There's a ton of really bad stuff out there. And if you even listen to people give some interviews, he kind of has an aura or an attitude of, my art's not very good. I don't know why people are buying it, which is really funny.
Oh my gosh.
This space has started as kind of as one would call a joke, but not in a negative way. And people are just figuring it out. And because they're figuring it out, they're not taking it that seriously. It's kind of like Bitcoin, the first Bitcoin being used to buy pizzas. People are just exploring and figuring it out. And so you're going to get a lot of crap, but you're going to get a lot of things that people are going to say, I don't get it. Anyone could do that. But then people say the same thing about Jackson Pollock. I mean, it's the tried and true, my kid could have drawn that argument. Who wants to hear that? Who wants to listen to that? That's not the point. Yeah, of course your kid could draw it, but they didn't. And so go have them draw it and see if it'll fetch $100 million. If it does, then your kid's a real artist.
You know what the funny thing is? No joke. I seriously used to say to myself, I could do that. And then I would splash paint on something and it just never looked right.
Yeah, you can't do it. If you could do it, you could do it. And people have this argument sometimes about my photography because there's a real simplicity to it, as well as some of the biggest names in photography in the world, like Annie Leibovitz. There's constantly amateurs being like, I don't get it. I could do that. I say, you know what? Go do it and show it to me. And then we can have a discussion. But until you do, I don't want to talk about it. We'll talk about more interesting things than whether you can do something or not.
But you know what the funny thing is, though? And this is going to make you laugh so hard. I can't even take a good photo on my souped up iPhone. I mean, this iPhone is supposed to be for people who literally should not be ever taking a photo. I cannot make a photo. No one in my family knows how to take a proper photograph. I mean, even when we try really super hard, I mean, at black and white, that would be like the Antichrist to us. I mean, there's no way it would come out either. It would just be so bad. It wouldn't even be funny. Actually, just for fun, I would probably put it on for an NFT sale because I'd like to see what
it might sell for more than what mine are selling. I mean, who knows?
Well, actually, that's another question I was going to ask you. These photographs, I can't even imagine what they would go for if they were in a gallery. I can't even imagine. If you even talk about Annie Leibovitz and Ansel Adams and people like this, you're definitely to be used in the same sentence as Annie Leibovitz and Ansel
I appreciate
Adams
that.
For sure.
I like to aspire to that on a daily basis.
Well, you're there. So what would these normally go for?
Well, it depends on the size of the print and the edition number. I mean, we're talking anywhere between a small print being close to 1,000 up to some of my best pieces at giant sizes being in the 5-figure range. Current pricing in the NFT space is a bit under what you would see in a gallery. But I think the big thing with me and the way I view the space is that, sure, maybe eventually it'll be an income stream for me potentially, but I'm just excited about the ability to use this technology for art. I'm not expecting to be the next people. If it happens, great. It certainly is a possibility that all of a sudden people could want to pay a ton of money for my NFTs, and I think they're worth a ton of money. But that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because it's just an amazing outlet for the creations that I'm making.
You know, you actually have Mark Cuban, who has bid on your work. That is
really exciting.
That is just crazy. That is amazing, for real, which obviously shows you that he actually does have good taste. I was starting to wonder. But, you know...
he's great.
I'm
He's such a cheerleader for the space, and I'm a big fan.
I'm a big fan of anyone who does appreciate the space, for sure. But that shows me he has a level of true class about him, so I'm glad to see that his name is there. I mean, that alone is pretty impressive. I'm now looking at the actual listing on OpenSeas. I'm looking at the Tom Brady listing. And of course, we all know what's going on with NBA Top Shots, everything in this space, which of course NBA Top Shots has to do with basketball. Of course, Tom Brady is in football, American football, I should say. This is a phenomenal piece of art. It is, in my opinion, and this isn't, I mean, I'm just looking at what the price is right now. I think it's really totally worth it to the point that I think I'm about to put a bid myself. I mean, this
wonderful. Please do that.
This is just crazy pricing. So I got to ask you this, because this space is very new, and in 10 years when it's gone really over the top, and this will be going with a couple of zeros after it, if not more, you're going to be looking back at this moment and thinking, wow, I was one of the first artists, one of the first photographers, one of the first professional photographers to really see the value in this. You're part of making history.
It's really exciting. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I'm in. I just see the writing on the wall where this is going. It's going to be a ubiquitous technology and way of working. And I couldn't be more excited to be on it on basically year one here. I agree. I think it's undervalued. I set the value really low to start because I wanted to get people to push that bid button. and I wanted to get people to be looking at it. It's so far gotten a couple thousand views. It's gotten 6 bids, including Mark Cuban. The dollar amount in front of it, the ETH amount in front of it, it doesn't faze me. One of the cool things about OpenSeas is that you get a cut of future sales, which is really awesome as an artist. But again, this is hard for some people to understand, especially when you see some of these huge numbers going in front of some of these artworks. But I didn't get into photography. I didn't get into the art space to get rich. In fact, I always told people I was prepared to be poor in order to make my art. I've been lucky that I've made a really good living and I live a really great life. I didn't get into NFTs to make millions. I didn't get into photography to make millions. I got into photography because I love creating art and I get to meet the coolest people and see what they're all about, and then create something of them. It's priceless. Honestly, I should be paying someone for the opportunity.
You know what? I absolutely believe that. I don't think any true artist gets into their art because they believe they're going to be famous. They do it because they're drawn to something which is bigger than words can explain. And if you can make a living out of it, you're right. It's a extra layer of blessing on top. So I just want to ask you, this particular one, this Tom Brady 7 I'm looking at, it says it includes unlockable content. What's that all about?
So I'm tying all of my NFTs to physical prints. I think it's I think the NFT space is a great way to prove ownership of something you can also display in your home in a physical form.
Nice.
All of my NFTs are going to be tied to prints that when the winner of the auction unlocks that content, they'll be able to contact me with some key phrases to get this print.
That is phenomenal. And that, I think, actually addresses a lot of points of topic that many people have addressed to me, one of them being the actual physical ownership of such a piece like this. Obviously, if something is created digitally, that's a different story. This is an actual photograph. And I think that that's a phenomenal addition. You know, you're bringing the tangible and the intangible together, and you're creating true value for the person who's going to bid on this. The whole thing is that you're going out there and really giving people an opportunity around the world to own your work, something that if you didn't maybe have this platform, I don't even know how some of these art houses work, like Christie's. I doubt anyone can just roll up and have their artworks, and even Christie's can't reach the scale that the NFT platforms have. These auction houses, they do not have the type of reach and the phenom, this push that's behind it right now. I mean, the kind of exposure that you're getting is unlike probably anything that you have seen before. Would you agree with that?
It's been great exposure. Mark has messaged out on his LinkedIn about it. There are a couple of thousand people who have viewed my work who never would have viewed it in any other way. And that's really exciting. I get the biggest exposure from when I do work of famous people for famous publications that have huge reach. And that's probably where I get the most eyeballs on my work. But what I love about Aviva is that it lowers the barrier of entry to almost zero for me to be in control of my own art. I don't have to go to Christie's. I don't have to go to a gallery and get their approval to put work on the wall. I get to do OpenSea, a open source platform, and I get to do it relatively affordably. And I get to reach, like you said, more people than I could possibly reach through a gallery in New York City.
The whole value of crypto right now, especially when, PayPal's just launched their crypto payments at 29 million merchants. You have today the news that Visa has just become the first major payments network to settle transactions in USDC. Of course, USDC is a stable coin. So as the crypto space also gains more adoption and understanding, then you will also see, obviously, conversion into this space and more people looking at Jesse Dittmar's work. So I guess we just have to keep our eyes on what is happening in the whole crypto sphere. And then when we talk about how your art is going to appreciate in value, because there is going to be a definite link, of course, between the value of what this piece will sell for. And this particular piece I'm looking at ends in 3 days. I don't know about the other ones.
They're not auctioned. They're just up for sale.
one up for auction, the others are fixed price. But like I said, these will appreciate in value as the market matures. So you've got a double win here. I mean, you really do. Not only does the piece, because, these are quite frankly underpriced in the first instance because you're, like you said, you just want to show the world your art, and you're doing a service for sure by doing that. And of course, the second instance, which is the value of the crypto, which is going to be used to buy these pieces, is going to absolutely increase. So you've made the right move. Absolutely. And I'm excited. I'm very excited to see how this is all going to work out for you. I'm going to keep my eye on this. And I know this sounds really weird. I'm just really proud of you. I mean, I know that sounds really strange. I'm not just impressed with you as a person and an artist. I'm just freaking impressed with you as an overall human being who is really doing something which is really amazing with his art, because your art deserves to be seen by everyone. And the fact that you are putting it out there for these prices shows that you really want the world to see your art, and you just want people to see what you can do and have an appreciation for that. And I think that's going to work.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, those are extremely kind words. I really appreciate them. What I'm really trying to do is grow a community of people who appreciate and like my artwork and will grow with me and follow my career and hopefully participate in it, purchasing art and being excited about new works that I make and put out there and consuming the content that I love creating, and, just kind of make this a long-term relationship, Aviva.
I love the idea of you having a new fan base of people who really want to grow with you and your art. I can't even imagine a young Ansel Adams coming on here and saying, I just want people to grow with me and appreciate my photography, or even a young Annie Leibovitz. I mean, I can't even imagine that. So I know that you also have a newsletter for people who want to understand more about what you're working on and about you as the artist. How do people get the newsletter?
You can sign up for my newsletter by going to my website, which is myname.com, jessedittmar.com, or Googling me. And then on the About page, there's a sign up for the newsletter there. And I send out that newsletter once a week. And it's always filled with new stuff that's either newly made or newly relevant. You throwing personal stories in there about the shoots and kind of giving a little more context to what's going on in my world.
So how far out are you booked?
My life, Aviva, is pretty crazy. Some projects get booked months and months and months in advance, and some projects are a publication calling me and asking me if I can get somewhere in a few hours. So it's really a mix of both. It's what makes it so exciting. I really honestly don't know what I'm going to do when I wake up in the morning sometimes. And that's so cool. So cool.
Well, I just want to thank you so much for coming on to Crypto and Blockchain Talk. This has been absolutely amazing. I'm so happy that you were able to come on here and talk to us about yourself, your art, and your forays into the NFT space.
Thank you, Viva. This has been so great. I love a podcast like yours that is continuing to push the space and interview relevant people in the space. But also, for anyone who's new to this podcast, go back and listen to the first 10 episodes. They're just an amazing explainer, breaking it down. What is crypto? What is the blockchain? What are the coins? It's just, if anyone is out there who is a fan of mine listening to this that hasn't gotten their crypto yet, you just go back to the beginning of this podcast and start from the beginning, and you'll know what to do.
That's really kind of you. Again, to see Jesse Dittmar's collection on OpenSea, it's very, very simple. Just go to OpenSea and then type in Dittmar collection or just Dittmar in the search terms, which is Dittmar, and you will see exactly what I've been describing to you. Beautiful photography. So, on that note, I would like to thank everybody for tuning in to this special edition of Crypto and Blockchain Talk. Please Tell your friends and family to download us on a myriad of podcasting platforms. The entire list, actually, it's not even the entire list. I just found out that we're on about 50 different podcasting platforms. But there's a nice tidy list on cryptoandblockchaintalk.com. On top of that, we stream these beautiful podcasts 24/7 on our sister radio station, crypto24radio.com, which plays news, interviews, and music 24/7 around the world. In addition, you can get through to us and give us messages by our usual social media channels on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, but we love to hear from you directly. So please do not hesitate and email us at education@savvydigital. That's education@savvy, S-A-V-I-I digital.com. On that note, we again appreciate that you are actually taking your precious time to listen to us. We know how busy you are and how many choices there are out there. So again, thank you for tuning in. Please be safe, be well, and goodbye for now.